Hey everyone. So I'm pretty sure that everyone is aware of, what's happened and all the chaos that's been happening in the country, especially as of last night. But it was funny that I recorded the video that you're about to see Friday night, the night before, what happened to President Trump. Um, and when I recorded the video, I wasn't really sure when I was going to release it. But, in light of everything that's happened, I think that this is really, really relevant to what's happened. And of course, to what's happened to Donald Trump. Like I said, I've never been shy about my political leanings, and I've always been a Trump supporter. But now it's more relevant than ever. So I hope you guys enjoy the video and what you're about to see, and why in essence I owe my life to Donald Trump. So I hope everyone enjoys it, and of course all my prayers go out to President Trump. Sir, what I saw last night, I saw a true warrior. I now I truly see why you are one of my heroes. God bless you, President Trump. I pray for your quick recovery, and I send all my prayers out to the Trump family. God bless all of you, and God bless America. Thank you. So many of you have probably guessed, judging from the title, this is going to be a very different type of video from the normal stuff that I usually do on here. This is going to contain heavy political topics. So if you're not into that kind of stuff or whatever, there's plenty of other stuff on my channel you can check out. Go there. This is just something that I felt like I really had to do, since it's an ingrained part of who I am. And I've never been shy about my political leanings. I've sprinkled in politics every so here and there, in other videos. I am a conservative. I'm very proud of that fact, and I never shy away from that, as is evident. All right. That kind of says it all right there. But what a lot of people don't know is how I became this way. What led me down this road of making these decisions and, kind of adopting this kind of life philosophy for myself. So without further ado, let's just kind of get into it. I think we have to be honest with ourselves that in today's world, today, not just in our country, but in the entire world, you can't get away from anything and everything being politicized. You'd have to be living under a rock not to notice this. It's in entertainment, books, social commentary, anything and everything has some kind of political slant to it. And I know that different people want to kind of escape from that, since it seems to be everywhere. And I get it. I really get it. I feel like that myself sometimes, even though I consume politics on a daily basis, kind of very different from what I deal with on this channel. My life passions don't lie in politics, but it kind of, guides my moral compass. It guides the way I live my life. Every decision that I make is guided by the fact of my conservative core values. But again, how did I become this way? I was raised in a typical, not typical, but I was raised in a Puerto Rican home. My parents are I'm Puerto Rican American. I prefer just to be called an American. But, to kind of get the context behind that, my parents were very conservative themselves. They were very Republican themselves. I grew up in a very religious household. And, as with any parent, they want to try to impart what they know and what they live by onto their kids. And it was no different with me and my sister. My parents were, very working class, very blue collar. And, they try to instill those kind of values in the kids growing up, which I've always thanked them for. But as with most kids, we go our own path, we go our own way. I was in the military for 4 years. I experimented with a lot of different stuff, Moving forward, I kind of came out of the military with a very cynical outlook on life, and that never really changed once I got into my late 20s, my early 30s and beyond. Yeah, I could tell that my parents weren't really pleased with the kind of direction that I was going, but it was my life, and I had kind of always adopted this kind of independent libertarian way of thinking. I said, I want nothing to do with Republicans. I want nothing to do with Democrats, conservatives, liberals. None of it means anything to me. I'm just going to live my life the way that I see fit and what I think is right. And that's what I kind of did for most of my life. And then we come to the year 2020. I've heard it described in many ways. Some people call it the burning times, which I think is very accurate, but that's neither here nor there. I never really paid much attention to presidential elections. People who got elected, they were all the same, yada yada, this and that. Didn't really care one way or another. Again, Democrat, Republican, I didn't give two fucks. And like I said, 2020 kicked in, and by that time, Trump had been president for almost 4 years at that point. And I was very much indifferent. I didn't hate him. I didn't love him. I didn't really pay much attention to it. But I will tell you this: I did notice that I always had more money in my pocket. I always had more money in my paycheck. When this guy, took the White House. But again, I was like, yeah, that's cool and all, but it's going to take a hell of a lot more for me to endorse a presidential candidate or me to get behind somebody like that. I just didn't care. Then came 2020 and the whole, COVID pandemic, scamdemic, people like to call it in my, conservative circles. That came along and the whole shutdown, took a hold. And since I myself live in a very, very leftist liberal state, a very blue state, those lockdowns went hard, extremely hard. I can tell you, I didn't really expect it to affect me as much as it did. I had just gotten out of a relationship. By that, it was like, when did the whole scamdemic hit? What was February, March of 2020, or in and around there? Coincidentally, I had just gotten out of a relationship. I had a bad breakup at the time, and that kind of went on its way. So I was, I had just bought my house, and I had all this space to myself. And once the lockdowns hit, I was kind of really in my own head. I mean, I really had not many people to talk to. I don't have much family around where I am right now. All my friends were scattered about, and, I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't talk to anybody. My life, well, I couldn't even go to the gym. And that's, another big part of my life. I'm really into physical fitness, and I couldn't even do that. So, I had some weights at home. So my life was literally work and the house, and that was it. And after, many, many months of that really started to get to me. Of course, I had paid attention to the whole George Floyd stuff and, riots and burning. But even then, I was not really like plugged in to what was going on in the, socio-political circles. I was just consumed with what was happening with me, as, I would say is, the case with most people, or was the case with most people. Slowly but surely, I found myself, just really sinking into a very, very deep depression. I didn't really realize how bad it was, but I started gaining a lot of weight. I mean, I had a beard down here, wasn't even cutting my hair. I looked like a goddamn hobo. I would go into work, and even the very few people that I work with started noticing the change. Like, dude, what's going on, man? Like, you're something wrong at home. You want to talk? No, I'm fine. And I really couldn't pinpoint my depression on any one thing. It was just me being isolated at that point, not being able to go out and, do the things that I would normally do. And, things just steadily got worse. They just started going downhill really, really fast. And I would say at the end of the summer of 2020, August, September, in and around there, I had just been sinking into such a deep hole. I wasn't sleeping at all. I was, not taking care of myself. My health was out the window, and, things just kind of started spiraling. My head went to a very, very dark place. I'm just going to put it that way. And I had never been suicidal before, ever in my life. And it got so bad that my headspace was in that place. It was not a fun time. Not a fun time at all. I would just get up, and I'm not one to show very much emotion at all. And I would just sit there. I would watch TV. I would just stare at the wall blankly, just my eyes glazed over. And I would just start crying. And I was like, what is going on? Slowly but surely, the thoughts started creeping in. And I would say, I think it was November, the same year, November 2020, right about around the time, the election happened in 2020, but I wasn't even paying attention to that. I really didn't care. I was just so in my own head at the time. I just came to a snap decision. I'm like, I'm going to do it. This is not worth it anymore. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't think we're ever going to get out of this terrible situation that we're in this country. Things were just bad. And I was like, I don't want to live in this kind of world anymore. I just don't. So I'm like, I'm just going to over the counter, slit the wrists, whatever. I'm going to go out. I'm just going to stop it. It ends here. I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to do it, but I made the decision. I was like, yeah, it's going to happen. I don't exactly know when or how, but it's going to happen. So I started doing some research on different methods and all this other kind of stuff. And I don't remember the exact date, but I remember, I think it was a Friday or a Saturday. I was just scrolling through YouTube one day. And I'm going to make a statement right now that's going to seem, kind of wonky and out there, but there's no other way to describe it. This is the most accurate way I can think of saying it. In November or December, somewhere around the time frame of 2020, I'm going to say it right now, Donald Trump saved my life. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean. I was scrolling through YouTube and I was just, I don't even remember what the hell I was watching. And I was just, scrolling through my suggested feed. There was a video that said, in quotes, "Never surrender." And it had Trump's face on it in the thumbnail. And I'm like, that's weird. Never surrender. I'm sorry, not never surrender. Never give up. That was the name of the video. I think it was, I think the full title was Never Give Up, speech by Donald Trump. And I just sat there and I looked at it and I looked at it. And I scrolled past it, scrolled, up and down. But over the course of the next 10, 15 minutes, I just kept coming back to that one video, and the curiosity started to build. I'm like, what is this? The video was about, I would say 35, 40 minutes long. So I just said, what the hell? I don't know what compelled me to click on the video, but I did. It was President Trump. And he was giving, I think it was a commencement speech, graduating class of, I believe, 2017, 2018. And I think it was Liberty University. I could be wrong on that. Like I said, 35, 40 minutes of him delivering this commencement speech to the graduating class. Within the first 5 minutes, the man had me hooked. Whether you like Trump or you don't, one thing I don't think anybody can deny is he's a very captivating speaker. At least I think so. I was laser focused on what he was saying. It was one of the most hopeful messages that I had ever heard in my life. And, say what you will about spiritual intervention or whatever it is, but that's what I believe happened in that moment. I believe that the hand of God willed me to click on that video. And that's exactly what I needed to hear in that moment in time. President Trump just delivered a very simple message of hope, of, again, the title of the speech, to never give up, to achieve your dream, and that no one could take you down. You are more than the sum of your parts. There's a strength that lies in you. But there was this one very special part of the speech that will always stick with me. He said that you have an inner strength, but there's an even greater strength that comes from above. And that really hit me. Like I said, it's what I needed to hear at that moment in time. And by the time the speech was done, I was on the floor. I was a blubbering mess. I mean, I don't think I had ever cried so loud or so long or so forcefully in my entire life. I mean, there was a big freaking wet stain on my carpet because of all the tears. There were tears and snot that were coming out of my face. I just lay there and I was just thinking. And by the time I was done with all that, I got up and I'm like, you know what? He was right. He was absolutely right. I'm stronger than this. Just giving up is for absolute pussies. You have to push through, because my dad had always taught me that when I was growing up. He was one of them old school Puerto Ricans that came from the island. He didn't move onto the mainland until he was like 16 or 17. And that's the way that he grew up. That's the way that his father taught him. And that's the way that he always tried to teach me. So I took what I had learned from my dad, and it melded so well with what Donald Trump had said in that speech. And it just clicked for me. He's like, I'm not going to give up. This is going to get better. You know what I mean? So when I say that Donald Trump saved my life, I'm not being hyperbolic. That's literally what happened. I was ready to check out. I was ready to exit stage left. And something or other, I mean, out of all the times I was scrolling through videos, I had never checked out a political video like that in ages. I may have clicked on one here or there just in passing, but for that specific video to be there in that suggested feed at that time where my headspace was, I really don't. I mean, you call it coincidence if you want. I don't believe in that. I think everything happens for a reason. And I think that happened for a reason. And if by some miracle that he ever gets to see this, I doubt that he will. And it's always been my life's goal from that one point on to personally thank him. But if this ever gets back to you, President Trump, thank you, sir. I know, a lot of people have said that you've had a very positive impact on their lives. Well, I'm one of them. You helped me in, ways you probably could never even fathom. So I consider Donald Trump to be one of my heroes at this point in time. Say what you will about it. I really don't care. Godspeed to you, Mr. President. What else can I say? Thank you. That led me down a whole conservative rabbit hole. I started checking out stuff from the Daily Wire, the Blaze TV, Fox News, OAN, anything and everything. I started checking out all these political commentators, all these right-wing political commentators, people like Brandon Tatum and Anthony Brian Logan and Dr. Steve Turley and just a myriad of others. And slowly but surely, I, started to gain strength in myself. I started to pick myself back up. I was like, I started losing weight again. I started doing workouts at home until everything kind of reopened. And I started getting myself back together, and people noticed it. They're like, "Oh man, you look a lot better, dude. That's, good on you. I don't know what happened, but if you ever want to talk about it," I'm like, no, I'm good, man. I was just going through a little funk at the time. That's, kind of the story that I would tell people. And I never told them that story ever. No one really knows how I became the way I am today. You know what I mean? But I mean, my parents were super happy about it. I made kind of a turnaround or whatever. I bought my MAGA hat, and I'm like, you know what? I'm on the Trump train, man. He's the best. He's the best for our country at this time. So that's kind of where my journey was. It was a long, hard road, but that's kind of how I formed the philosophies and ideas that I hold today. And people can debate all they want, but to me, this is the most logical decision for my own life. This is how I choose to live. And I think it's the template for how not only our country, but how our world came to work and function so well up until recent times. Once you veer off a certain course, you're going to find that things don't work. Things are set in a specific order for a reason. Civilization depends on men and women not being enemies or adversaries, but to work perfectly in tandem. That's a whole other, kind of tangent that people can go on, but that's the way that I see things. I believe in the nuclear family. I believe in gender roles within a man and woman relationship movement. It's called the walkaway movement. I don't know if this really fits into that, but maybe it does. I don't know. I was never really a Democrat. I was never really, leftist. I was, always kind of saw myself as middle of the road. Yeah, I mean, if this fits into that category, so be it. That's fine. I had never really intended it, but that's my story of how I became a conservative and how I choose to adhere to these conservative values that I've come to cultivate over time. I'm not trying to sway anybody. I'm not trying to, say that you have to think this way. You obviously don't. You have to do what you think is right for you. But this is what I think is best for our world. I don't know if you've ever looked outside lately, but it's a fucking mess. The world's on fire, and not a lot of people seem to be doing a hell of a lot about it. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments, but I do value people's opinion, and I think there's a lot more out there than just me who have stories like this to tell. So don't be afraid to tell it. You got to be who you are. Right. All right. I'll see you later, guys. Bye.